Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mark's Day's Creative Differences, a monthly... Oh dear. Already one for Kai. There we go. That's on a loop. Defaults to loop. Why do they default the audio to loop? It's almost like I've got a pianist waiting for me in the room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mark's Day's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer friends about the little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers, in the hope that we can give readers some insight to the creative process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice they can actually use. I'm Mark Stay, author, screenwriter, podcaster, and if you're joining us live, feel free to ask questions in the comments and take part in the conversation. And this is normally where I say, let's listen to that jingle again, but we've already had it about 3 times. But no, let's hear it again. Thank you as always to Dominic Curry for that. He sends me 2 a month. I've actually got a backlog of jingles for you all, so I might have to start using 2 per show. Let's get to our special guest. This author's work has been listed for the Comedy Women in Print Prize, the Cheshire Novel Prize, the Daily Mail First Novel Competition, the BPA First Novel Award, and the Times Chicken House Children's Fiction Competition. Yes, that's a real thing. And now her amazing debut novel, 10 Marchfield Square, has been published by Bloomsbury in the UK and Union Square in the USA to overwhelmingly positive reviews. People are loving this book. It's only Nicola Whyte. Hello, Nicola. Welcome to the Creative Differences podcast. How are you today?
Yes, I'm well. How are you?
Tickety-boo. Thank you very much. Yes. And we were talking about backdrops before we started recording. We both got books behind us. These, the books behind you, how many of those have you read, or is it just for decoration? Because you've worked in the industry. You'd have read most of those, yeah?
I've read a lot of those, and half of those, most of those are my other halves.
Right.
Yeah, so if it looks literary or arty or chunky, that's Andrew's.
Right. So do you do you have separate shelves, for his and her books or whatever?
We go by genre, Mark.
Okay, of course you do. Of course you do.
Yeah. So that's crime in the middle there.
Right. Okay.
And that's
Excellent.
Excellent. Classics and the more literary stuff, and then over there is my witchcraft and paranormal and sci-fi section.
Oh, I'd love to have a nose at that at some point. But yeah, I mean, I'm slightly disappointed you're not using Bic and Bisac codes, but genre's good enough, I think.
My Dewey Decimal is out.
Exactly. Well, look, let's talk about your amazing debut novel, 10 Marchfield Square. There it is. It's getting the most amazing reviews. People are absolutely loving it. Now, as I understand it, I saw a little post from you on social media the other day with an image of Tower Bridge, and you were talking about how this was inspired by trips to London with your grandmother. Tell us more.
Yeah, so my grandmother was born a Londoner, but she got shipped off to Wales for various reasons when she was about 8, and then when she was 14, her own grandmother came down from London, picked her up and took her off to be a maid in a big house in London. And London was where she wanted to be. She is that's how she thought of herself. And so she worked in a couple of big houses, and that was like before the war. I think she worked in a Lion's Corner house as well at one point. But she had so many stories about the people that she met, and she was but she didn't have a safety net. She didn't have a secure family unit. She didn't have any money, and the war came, and so you do what you have to do to survive, and you can't take risks in that situation. I think you either become like a chronic risk taker because you've got nothing to lose, or you hang on to what you've got. And so there's a character in my book called Celeste who is a sort of wealthy widow, and it's sort of like how my grandmother could have been if she'd been born in one of those houses instead of being the maid. But she used to take us up to town because she lived in Harrow, so it was still that's down to town, isn't it, really? But it was still up to town. And she would buy like a tourist ticket for us for the red buses, and it would be hop on, hop off all over the city.
Yeah.
In those days, I probably still isn't. But yeah, so we would go to all of the landmarks and the big places, and I hadn't been out to Tower Bridge or like Tower of London since she took us there. So it was all just, it's her London. It's not the London I go to, which is I get off the train, I go to a meeting in a glass building, and then I come back.
Yes.
It's the bit that you see it's the bit that you think of when you think of London. You don't think of actual London. You
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
Trafalgar Square and the river.
I was talking to my cousin today. I got my hair cut today. Congratulations to me. And my cousin is my hairdresser. Yeah, bizarrely, we live in the same town. He has a hairdresser. So we will just chat because he grew up in Bermondsey, which is where a lot of my family are from. Just across the... I used to go and see him because I'd stay for like summer holidays, and he's right next to Tower Bridge and right opposite the old Sarson's vinegar factory, which you do want to get downwind of on a summer's day. And we were talking about how the London that we knew, it's not our London anymore. There was London, particularly when you're a child and you go to the museums and you go to the castles and places like Tower Bridge have a kind of a magical effect on you. But like you say, yeah, when you're commuting into London and going to meetings in, air conditioned, cubicles, it's not quite the same. And Marchfield Close, this is a kind of a little, set back from all the hurly-burly of London. Tell us about the close itself.
Totally fictional. It's like, when you go to like Bloomsbury or some of the nice, really nice areas, and there are these little private parks. So I sort of imagined like if you take a mews, like a posh London mews, I kind of turned that into a kind of stretched it out a bit, and made it a little bit green because I like things to be a little bit green. But yeah, we were at a meeting and it was near St James's Park, and I walked past this little passageway called Pickering Place, and I was like, what's down there? And it was this sort of black panel lined alleyway, but it led to this tiny little square, and it was just that phrase, the smallest square in London. And I was like, that's the book, because I had all these I'd had all these ingredients in my head, but I didn't have the linking thing.
Oh, I love
And
it.
that phrase was that's it. That's where they are.
Oh,
So,
that moment. I had one of those moments. I had one of those moments this week, actually, where I came up with a title for something that I just go, oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. It's a lovely moment.
That really helps, doesn't it, the title? When you've got it. It's really
absolutely.
That's it. You've got your anchor.
Now, I put this image up. Now, I think this is from the German edition because it says Marchfield Square. And the German publishers, they brought out, they did it with a kind of a fold-out map, which I love. And viewers, you probably can't see this, and listeners, obviously, you can't. But you've got this, lovely sort of fold-out map of the square, and there are numbers by doors and windows. So was this, and just out of, you can just, it's cropped, but you can see the names of the people who live in those particular houses. Was this something that you sat down and mapped out before you were writing, while you were writing? How did this come about?
Yeah, I did. So I kind of originally, because the place that I was basing it on is tall, really tall. So actually, and then you start writing and you go, oh my God, that's far too many characters. If you put a murder like this and it's really tall, that's a lot of page time for people that ultimately can't do much. So you have to. So I had to flatten it, and that's when it kind of became a bit more like a muse vibe. But so the English version of Marchfield Square has a map, but it's very flat, and it's sort of based on what I drew. So it was just a pen and ink drawing of a square, and I'm very non-artistic in that way. So that's sort of like, it's just a grid
I love
system, and then I sort of drew. But it was really nice. They made a really nice version of my terribly flat with no perspective drawing. And then of course the Germans were like, yeah, hold my beer. And they did I mean, we don't do these fold out paperback covers, I don't think, do we? But it was, I had no idea it was coming, and I was like, oh, it's beautiful, I love it.
I'm getting Rear Window vibes from that as well. The way they're all looking in on each other. And the book asks the question, how well do you know your neighbours? So, I mean, how have your neighbours taken to this book? and was Rear Window, and what were your other influences on this book?
So Rear Window's actually been, because I think I've only realised quite recently, I think, in pictures, and Rear Window, because it has all those vignettes of all the different neighbours doing their different things, and they're right next to each other, but they're completely unconnected. That's actually, it's quite a few of my books in the past have had that as a sort of influence or inspiration. So it was quite a big influence, but it was more about but Celeste is the only one. The person that owns the square is the only one who is actually sort of watching everybody, quite
Right.
shamelessly with her binoculars. Everybody else is a bit more London, like I'm not that nosy. They know their neighbours' names, which is more than most people would. But I mean,
Yes,
I
it's
know
true.
loads about my neighbours. We're
Yeah.
very good friends. We share each other's bins. We have a sort of key system so that no one can ever get locked out, because by opening up about 12 different houses, eventually you will be able to get into your own. So it's very, very community here.
This is your debut, but you've been
Mhm.
writing for a while. Apparently, you wrote your first murder mystery at 15 years of age.
Yeah, it was as good as you'd expect. I did rewrite it actually. After So my dad died at the end of 2020, and
Oh.
I don't know why, I don't know why, I just felt like suddenly the right time to rewrite it. So I
Hmm.
did, but the first version was, I mean, I was 15, there was no internet. I didn't know anything about editing. Editing was grammar and spelling. It wasn't, plot holes and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was about some kids who lived in a block of flats in London, and they found a robot who'd witnessed a crime, and but he couldn't speak. And I think it was even called Silent Witness, like before the TV show came out. Um, I know, I so missed a trick, but
Yeah.
for some reason, I don't know why I thought this was appropriate, but were going around London digging up body parts, and there was a point really close to the end where I went, "Oh, hang on, that's not appropriate, is it?" and but I didn't bother going back, Mark. I just keep going, just keep swimming. So I just sort of fudged the ending, and then, as you do when you're 15, started sending it off to a couple of publishers. Um, I actually got feedback. It was the first. It was the first and last time till I was about 40 that I got some feedback from somebody. So
Wow. Wow. I mean, as a concept, that sounds great. I mean, are the film rights still
thanks.
available? I'm definitely
Well,
interested.
as I say, I
It's
rewrote it, and that was the Times
yeah.
Chicken House book, ironically. So
Ah, right. Okay.
I had a paranormal YA that I'd been working on for ages, and I was all geared up to enter that, and then at the very last minute, I subbed in this one. I can't even remember why. I just went, oh, I'll just stick that in. And it was basically a first draft. And afterwards, when you're just like, I can't believe I did that. I had a plan, Nicola. You had a whole plan, and you've just changed the plan at the last minute. What were you thinking? So I immediately was like, right, okay, we'll forget about that then. And then a few months later, got the email.
Your favourite mystery novel really surprised me. It's the Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul by the late great Douglas Adams,
Mm-hmm.
which of course is a terrific page-turning mystery. What was it about this one that stood out to you from the Agatha Christie's and all the usual kind of influences?
Well, I think because I read so much crime, like my whole life, I've read so much crime novels. It is very hard to pick a typical crime novel
Yeah,
that has
yeah,
had the biggest effect. But the thing about that one, and obviously I'm a big Pratchett reader as well, is that it is so completely unapologetically bonkers. And it's
yeah,
like, this is a
yeah.
detective novel. He does solve a mystery. He goes down an investigative path. There are so many long running jokes with some amazing payoffs at the end. It is surreal. There's a load of Norse mythology. There are some absolutely iconic scenes in that book. And a lot of people don't realize that there are very similar scenes in very latterly famous, huge books.
Yes, I know the
Um,
one you mean. Yes.
yeah, and
Mm,
quite a few
mm,
scenes. It's not even like one. And when you read them, you're
yeah.
like, oh my God.
Ah, yeah.
But it's like I remember reading that for the first time and thinking, well, that's the same as, and everyone else is like, what are you even talking about? Because everyone knows
Hitchhikers.
Hitchhikers,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
not so much the Dirt Gently. But this one is, I mean, I made a friend of mine read it recently, and she kind of loved it, but she was also like, but they don't explain it, and it just ends, and there's no. But she kind of loved it, but at the same time, you wouldn't get away with it now.
Well, you probably. I mean, someone like Douglas could,
That's
and
true.
he did.
He was good.
I think Hitchhikers got him a license to do whatever the hell he wanted
That's very
in
true.
in his own time span. It's just a shame he didn't write more. But yeah,
I
it's a
know.
great book, and you reminded me of it. I just think I've got to go back and read it again. I might
Yeah.
even have a first edition somewhere. But
Ooh,
yeah, it's great book, great author,
it is a great
fantastic.
book. It's one of those books that I regularly think of, and
Mm,
I think it would probably be like a desert island book for me if I
brilliant,
had to choose a
excellent
few. That
choice.
would be one. Yeah.
the thing is, we've got those books behind you. You've got, you're choosing deep cuts as influences. It's almost like you've worked in the publishing and book selling industry for a while. Of course, you worked for lovely, lovely Ottakar's, which was when I was at Orion, Ottakar's was the chain that I looked after. And we were always in competition with Waterstones, always trying to get one over Waterstones, I loved, dealing with you guys. You were it was like a family company, it had going down to Salisbury, and each of your shops, such a warm welcome. Let's get nostalgic about Ottakar's for a minute. I mean, what are your memories of that time and working for Ottakar's?
So I worked in Aberystwyth first and then Tenterden, and it's everybody sort of a similar personality. Everybody is warm, everybody loved books, and of course book selling isn't fantastically well paid. Retail is expensive to run, a retail business. So they do it because they love it, but everyone was highly intelligent, very well read, and it was just, it really attracted kindred spirits, and there was a lot of autonomy for the shops, so they were free to be creative. And our managing director, James Hennage, who founded the chain, and also everyone at head office just kind of admired that creativity. Everybody liked it. It wasn't so much like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You're making it look, it was always like, hey, well done. Have you seen what they've done? This is fantastic. And I remember once they paid an external company to come in and do a staff satisfaction survey. And it went all out on the internet, like, please fill in the survey. It's completely anonymous. Tell us what you think, about management. And it's just to help us improve the business. And then after about a month, they went, yeah, we're going to have to redo it because the results were a little bit dodgy, a bit suspicious. And, they thought we'd basically got at them, that head office had, had a word. So that went out again, like, really is anonymous, say what you think, it's we all want to hear all the criticisms as well. And I mean, it came back much the same, and they basically concluded it was a cult. So because everybody just seemed just to really enjoy themselves at work, and they were just like, yeah, it's clearly a cult.
Well, it kind of was, and it was. I think it was. You were all such passionate readers. That was the great thing. We knew that if we took the books, you took proofs to you, we would get feedback almost immediately. And I knew when I was calling on Ottakar's stores, they would be the ones who, you'd hear almost always hear from them first. And you were always great at supporting new authors and new talent. And it was such a joy, dealing with you folks. It was, so it was a shame when it all what's quite telling, because Ottakar's were kind of gobbled up by Waterstones essentially. But very often where you had an Ottakar's and a Waterstones in the same town, everything shifted to the Ottakar's because they had those Hergé, Tintin, murals on the wall, and the children's departments had aquariums and things like that. It was they were just such lovely shops. It was listeners going, what the hell? But for listeners, this Ottakar's was a fantastic book chain in the UK.
A lot of people thought that their local Ottakar's was an independent because everything was slightly different. So, but yeah, it was. Yeah.
I'd started at Orion, and because of a huge cock-up I made with an Ottakar's order, I became a bit of a superstar, because this was Michelle Paver's Wolf Brother, the first book in the Wolf Brother series, which Ottakar's made Children's Book of the Month. And back then, and if there's any published authors listening to this, the opening order was 3,000 copies. I mean, opening order now, if you're lucky to get 30 copies. I mean, this is the difference between then and now. But I did something wrong and I duplicated the order. I sent Ottakar's 6,000 copies, and I was pretty sure I was going to get sacked, that I'd get an absolute
probably sold the fans like us.
Well, Michelle Paver went on News at 10 somehow, got the most astonishing coverage absolutely everywhere. Waterstones sold out, so the only people who had any copies were Ottakar's, and they sold through as well. So it was such a wonderful cock up, and I've Ottakar's, my own incompetence to thank.
I feel like we have you to thank.
Well, the thing is, if it had been, say, a supermarket, they'd have said, "Oh, we're not even going to put these on the shelves, or we'll send them back, or even worse, we'll pulp them." Whereas you guys were like, "Oh, well, give it a go." So that was amazing. Well, let's bring things up to date as well. You're working. You run a digital agency, and do you still design author websites? Is that still part of your
me and my business partner David, we kind of do more government apps now, but we
Right.
still, we still build. I still build websites for friends, and because it's fun. It's something that we didn't we didn't do it because it made money, but we did it because it was fun and it kept us in touch with our book roots. Because David obviously was also a bookseller, so it kept us in with publishers and authors, and it was more fun than doing corporate websites. Yeah.
Because you did my Aunt Marion's website, didn't you?
I still do your Aunt Marion's website.
You still do? Oh, she's not driving you mad, is she?
No, not at all. She has more events than you and me put together, Mark.
That's true. Yeah, she does go out there. And she's 81 this year. Yeah, no, just speaking as someone who is family tech support, I can, I was trying to get my dad to use Apple Music the other day.
Well, actually, I use your aunt as an example. Whenever I get someone going, oh, I just can't do it, I'm like, Marion Dante can do it. You can do it.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, she'll love that. She'll absolutely love that. Fantastic. But folks, scrolling across the bottom there, nicolawhyte.com. People often go, what should a website look like? Nicola's is beautifully designed, so clean, so easy to navigate. Less is more.
Less is more. Yeah, less is more when you're quite lazy.
Let's get on to our regular questions, which I ask of all our guests. So we'll go through these one by one. What small thing has made a big difference to your creative process?
I think planning the middle, really, because I used to plan the end, and then your characters do their decisions, and then it would be like, hey, guess what? This 90,000 word novel is 130,000 words. And now I'm like, if I know the middle, it's much easier to stay on track. I think that's probably the biggest change for me, I think, in terms of, stopping me from going absolutely bananas. But also like a piece of information, like we're talking about the German market. I was in a workshop with Imogen Cooper, and she said that if you translate a book into German, it adds almost a third onto the length of the book. And when you consider translation costs and paper costs and ink costs and all the rest of it, it was like, whoa. Because up to that point, I was like, it's not that big a deal to cut some words. But actually, you realize that's as in terms of making it appealing. So those two things together are like really focus me on not overwriting, not just enjoying myself forever and meandering off down wherever, and just keep me focused. So yeah.
Actually, that's a very good point. The German editions of my books are quite chunky, but I just thought it was because they were slightly smaller format. But that makes complete sense now. And when you talk about planning the middle, because for many people this is one of the most difficult parts, because the opening is all fun and games. The middle act is where you need to escalate and things have lots of consequences, and sooner or later you have to tie these things up. How are you planning that middle?
So it's that big shift. What's the big change that's going to happen? That gear change. So when I've decided like what's the big turning point where everything sort of goes up a gear. Once I know what that is, then it keeps me on track, and it means that my characters are never it's like keeping the target in sight, so they can't veer off too much. If you do what your characters want you to do, you will end up so far away from where you need to be. And editing for word count is probably one of the most painful versions of editing, when you're trying to shave off 40,000 words and you're going, I can't possibly, but you have to. So it's learning the hard way is also a very big motivator.
What's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing on a project?
Probably when it's the only one I'm thinking about. When I know that middle, and actually I'm like, yeah. And it's suddenly that's the only, because normally there's like, I could do that and it could do that. And I've just had an idea for this one. So when it's the only one, that's when I'm ready.
How do you know when you're done?
So I still struggle with this, because I think now I'm better at drafting. The book is finished, but doesn't mean the story is done. Before, I always assumed if the book was finished, the story was done, but actually it's not. The story is the story, and the structure is the structure, and they're not always the same thing. So I'm not sure I'm ever 100% sure. So I don't know. I think when I'm sick of it, when I just want to offload it to someone else, maybe.
When that deadline goes whooshing by, in the words of Douglas Adams.
And Douglas Adams, yeah.
How do you remember that idea that you have at 3 a.m?
I don't really. I'm a real night owl, so when at 3 a.m, I'm like, that's when I'm properly asleep. But I do, if it's a really good one, or if I've had a really like weird dream, I will get my phone out and write it down. But the light of the phone wakes me up, so it's like I really do resist it, and then I regret that because I just don't remember them.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your writing career?
Probably querying too much, like querying a book too much. Like when I knew the market wasn't ready, but I kept querying because I was so sure that somebody would see the potential. And then, of course, what happens is the market shifts and everybody's already seen it and you can't send it out again. So I think that happened to me with a cozy crime novel I wrote in 2019. And everybody was going, cozy, no, we don't, nobody publishes this. It's got to have, it's got to be really dark. That's what we like, dark, 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 dark. And I'd sent it to everybody and got the say, oh, I really enjoyed this. I love the pitch. I love the title. But no, we don't publish this. Oh, Richard Osman, hello. And I had literally sent it to everyone. So it's currently in a drawer awaiting its time.
Maybe it will have its time at some point. I still think your biggest mistake was not finishing the robot silent witness book. So I'm waiting for.
Wow, you're going to love it, Mark.
I am first in line for that one. What's the best happy accident of your writing career?
Well, it might have been that Times Chicken House one, subbing that in at the last minute. But actually, it kind of turned me off writing for children for a bit because the subbing after that was brutal. And so I thought, I'm just, I'm done. I'm done trying to please people and do whatever. So I'm just going to write whatever makes me happy. And of course, that was Marchfield. So
it's that. I mean, you said earlier about writing for yourself and writing super long books or whatever, but I think that's the key to it, though, isn't it? You've got to write. You can't chase the market. You've got to write what you love, and what you're passionate about. And when those stars align in terms of the market's ready for it, then great things will happen. So I think that's a lesson to be learned from that. And writing for kids, I've tried it. It's the hardest thing ever. It really is such a difficult market. Is there a character or a story swirling around your mind that you want to write, but you're not ready to write yet?
Yes, there's a book I want to write, but it's like, it is definitely one story, but it's too big to turn into a standard crime novel that I would like to write. So I'm like, how do I don't know how to do it. So because I don't know how to do it, I haven't started it. I really do percolate for years and years. So this one is, probably got another 5 years in the cooker. I don't know. Yeah, but it's not, it's big. It's like Succession big in terms of scope. And I'm like, you can't do that in one book, Nicola. What's the plan?
Yeah, no, fair. Percolation's a big part of my process as well. This week I'm sitting down and writing 3 pitches for my agent for 3 ideas, and just which one do you think is a goer? And each of them has been some of them 15 years, in one form or another. And then suddenly you think, I know how to do that now, And it's the thing is not to force it, not to try and knock it into a shape that doesn't fit it. Just let it find its own time. But that said, I saw you at. No, go on.
No, it's exactly the same for Marchfield. Exactly the same thing. All of a sudden, after years of it, boom, yeah, that's it. I know how to do it now. And it's like, well, how does that work?
But I did see that you're working on the second book in this series. So after years of percolation for Marchfield, you're having to write that difficult second book. How's that coming along?
Difficult. Yeah, it's okay. I had an idea that I thought was good. And then I finished it and my editor went, yeah, great. And now we're in the middle of editing and I'm like, oh, it was a terrible idea, Nicola. It was really awful. So I don't know. But yeah, I was surprised at how, I think because I'd been editing book 1, so I think I was still in the zone. And it was a bit like the character meanderings again. I was just like, oh, well, I'd actually sown, and I find I do this a lot, is that I'd sown the seeds of the next one without realizing it.
Right.
There were things I'd put in book 1 and I could suddenly go, that could be more, that could go somewhere, that could lead to something else. And actually I've now put that deliberately into book 2. I'm like, maybe that, if I needed a book 3, that could be book 3. So it's, I didn't mean to do it in book 1, but it just, I don't know, it's just worked.
Excellent.
I think often the solution to your problem is in what you've already written. You just don't know it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that thing as well. When you get notes, you have to look for the note behind the note from the editor, where you think, actually, it's not, you've noticed the problem here, but actually the solution is 2 chapters back, where that thing probably shouldn't have happened, which has had this ripple effect and blah, blah, blah. So, it's, it's all in there somewhere. It's all, it's all in that soup somewhere. It's,
I think
just,
so, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling myself to keep myself sane. Anyway, Emily, do you have any questions from our the people joining us live today? Richard asks this every single episode now. What are the biscuits of choice for writing? Now, he knows I'm a chocolate hobnob man. So, Nicola, biscuits for writing?
I like a chocolate digestive, plain.
Classic.
Do you know, I like a malted milk because it's quite a...
Ooh.
I know, it's sort of a classic, but it's meatier than your standard, it's, I don't know, you feel like you've had a biscuit when you've had a malted milk.
If the malted milk marketing board are looking for a catchphrase there it is. Do we have any real questions, Emily? From Gavin Ralph here. A story that's too big so it needs to be pared back or turned into a series. So is this an option for you, Nicola? Taking that idea that you thought you might need to draw it all back, could you make it even bigger?
That novel that I wrote that was like 130,000 words and I had to get it down to 90,000. That was involved taking out a whole plot line, which means that essentially book 2 is sort of a third of the way written. So I have a key thing for that, but I think it is going to be a trilogy. It's just the third book is too big to be the third book. So I need to figure out where the division is. But yeah, absolutely. I think that is a good shout. That is what I've been thinking, that in fact it's a trilogy and I just haven't got it yet.
This happens a lot in the fantasy genre as well, where someone writes the first book and it's like, whoops, I've actually written a trilogy.
That's 9 books.
So, exactly, yeah. So it's a good problem to have, I guess, more than you actually need. I'd love to see your writing on the big screen. Are there any plans for TV or film yet?
No, not yet. But there has been, there's always, I think, people looking at it and thinking about it. And it seems to be even slower than publishing. Apparently, who knew that was a thing? Oh God, tell you, no, it really is. It really is. Oh, you would know, yeah, you know.
It's got that Rear Window thing. It's got that Murders in the Building thing as well. So it's definitely lens TV people get behind it. Let's make this happen. Yeah. Yes. Andrew Giles says, have you ever read a book and wished you had written it?
Yes, quite recently actually. I read Deadly Animals by Marie Tierney, and she's been shortlisted for the Theakston's Crime Novel of the Year. So good. It's set in 1970s Birmingham, and it's just really, really good crime novel.
And it just gives you inspiration as well. So I was
a bit like that with Kate Atkinson. I came to Kate Atkinson very, very late, and I was like, oh my God.
Me too. I've been reading it for about 2 years now, and she is a genius. A turn of phrase, such a big imagination, so good.
Yeah, I started with the second Jackson Brodie because that was the one I had, because it said it was a jolly murder mystery. And I was like, that's right up my street. And then I kept it for 20 years. And I kept thinking, it's Kate Atkinson. It's going to be very literary. It's probably going to be very, and I read it and I was just like, I couldn't stop. It was so good. Yeah. And it's funny because she asks, what's the opposite of, he writes novels that they're not hard-boiled. What's that, soft-boiled, ? And of course, now in the UK, we've rebranded that as cozy crime. And of course, not all soft-boiled crime is cozy, but we've sort of put it all in that box now because it makes sense to readers. But not all cozy crime is actually cozy.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Simone Greenwood says, would you write a Marchfield Square Christmas book, and would Lewis have a Christmas tree? Oh, we've got a fan here. We've got a reader. Love it. Excellent. Thank you, Simone.
I would write a Marchfield Square Christmas book, but no, Lewis would not have a Christmas tree unless somebody literally dragged one into his house. Probably Audrey, and it would probably be pre-decorated as well. But no, he would not have a Christmas tree.
Why would he not have a Christmas tree? Tell us more about Lewis.
He's very misanthropic, and it's just noise. It's like he would rather be staring at his blinking cursor and not writing his own crime novels than decorating his flat. He's got that malaise, but he's coming out of it. he's coming out of it. But yeah, and not. So I don't think he's quite at the Christmas tree stage yet.
As a crime writer, do you get worried that people will see your internet search history and incriminate yourself? Well, I think any writer will worry about this. So what was the strangest thing you've had to look up?
I mean, every now and again, I will suffix it with "for a crime novel" on the end, just in case. Like that gets me out of jail free. I don't know. What is the most incriminating? I think probably undetectable poisons these days. I think it's quite hard now to come up with an undetectable poison.
I bought a book called Deadly Doses, which is a really good book on poisons. So I don't have to look it up anymore. That's you remember books, don't you?
Offline innocence is what you're saying. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I found some quite interesting stuff.
Yes, A Writer's Guide to Poisons. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get that.
Yeah. Essential reading.
I had to do some very dodgy case study reading on antifreeze poisoning.
Right.
Yeah, the Americans, they poison each other with antifreeze a lot. I think they have a lot of like desserts and things that are very brightly coloured and sweet. And there's a lot of people trying to almost, not quite, getting away with antifreeze poisoning.
Excellent.
But
now we know.
For a crime novel.
Did your character stay exactly as you planned at the start, or did any evolve and change as you were writing?
I kind of start off with a little film playing out in my head, so they kind of are who they are. But yeah, they do evolve. They get deeper, and sometimes things about them surprise. Like, have you ever typed something and you start laughing because you're like, "Oh yeah, that's so him." Like one of my characters being a huge Phil Collins fan, it just suddenly was like, yeah, she would be, and I didn't know. I didn't set out to make her a Phil Collins fan. It just, that's who she is actually. So it's just things like that. They just surprise you in ways that you don't expect. But I think, for main characters, they tend to stay as they appear, but they do evolve because they have to be different by the end of the book. Otherwise, what was the point? Everything they've been through has changed them somehow, even if it's only in a small way.
Let's. What's bringing you joy at the moment, Nicola? This can be books, movies, TV shows, music, games, whatever makes you happy when you're not writing.
All of the above. At the moment, Person of Interest. I'm rewatching Person of Interest. Brilliant TV show. I mean, and it stays good. And it's like 22 episodes a series, and it's I'm on series 2. So there's still a lot of episodes to go, but I think they've got 100 episodes out of it. And it's like, can you imagine a Netflix thriller? You'll get like 3 episodes of like new series. And this is just, it really holds up. It's got that sort of victim of the week, but also a series arc, and then a bigger arc. What's bigger than a series?
But that's old school American TV.
It's old school, but it really holds up. And sometimes it's like, the stuff that you think is, that'll be dated, and actually it still works.
No, that's. I mean, that's they used because they have these massive writers' rooms. Everyone pitching in ideas and then going off and writing on them, because they had to do 22 a year because you have to get up to a certain number before it goes out for syndication. And that's when you start making your money back for the TV show. So it's they don't really make them like that anymore. So it's that's great, excellent. What else is bringing you joy, Nicola?
I've just finished edits, and normally when I finish edits, I either start playing time management games like Theme Hospital or Cultures, my little Viking game, or jigsaw puzzles.
There it is.
Yeah.
Excellent. Got Cultures there. Yeah. That does look fun.
It's just little Vikings that I make. It's a bit sinister, really. You make them breed, and then the children grow up to be slaves for you as they build their village. It's now I'm thinking about it, it's not great, but it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just that time management stuff. It distracts me. So Theme Hospital is another one that I play a lot. But just, it's sort of like a weird mindfulness thing. It's just you're thinking, but you're not thinking, and it's just like a reset before I get into the next book or
cool.
or whatever. Because I tend not to read other people while I'm writing or editing because I worry about voice.
Yes, I read a lot of non-fiction when I'm writing, and then treat myself to fiction in between. You did send me a list, so I'll pop these up and see if these prompt any memories for you. So
yes, that's what I'm reading at the moment. That was my reading reward for finishing my edits. The first one was All the Hidden Monsters, and it's great. It's like a YA paranormal thriller murder mystery, and it's just brilliantly written, really good fun.
So for listeners, this is All the Lost Souls by Amy Jordan. In terms of music, you were talking about Massive Attack, Live With Me, which I was listening to earlier today, prompted, and it's again a deep cut. It's a great tune.
So really, I didn't really think I liked Massive Attack. I liked that, but they did produce a Madonna album that I liked. And when I heard this song, I was like, oh my God, that is a mood. And so I play. So sometimes, because when I don't have like a whole album that feeds a book or an idea, it's like one song, and I will play it over and over, and I never get sick of it. It's a weird thing. And this is a song that is currently inspiring something that I'm not currently writing it, but it's the Percolation inspiration.
The Percolation. I love the Percolation. And then in terms of films, you picked a couple of films. You've got Mothering Sunday there.
Yeah, so these were on Film 4 really recently, and I ended up watching them both again. So this one's really, it's post-war. It's sort of that devastation of all the lost children, basically, that died in the war. And it is so quiet, and it's very beautiful, and it's, devastating. So I loved that. And then like immediately afterwards, there was a film on called Rosaline, and that was just, I had no idea what this even was, and I started watching it, and it's sort of told from the perspective of Romeo's ex, but it's a story of Romeo and Juliet told from his ex's perspective, and it's so unexpected and really, really funny. There's a great cast and some really good jokes, and the music is fantastic. There's a soundtrack by Anna of the North and I can't remember what their name is, but I had it on my phone. I downloaded it because I loved it.
Well, I watched the trailer of this earlier today, and it's I've forgotten her name. She was in Booksmart. Do you remember Booksmart? Really funny film. She and it looks really, really good. So it's just,
it is good.
I think it came out. It's one of those films that came out during lockdown. That so many films and books and all kinds of things, just because the usual outlets weren't there, they kind of got overlooked. So it was I shall be definitely checking that out. I've just started With a Little Help from Their Friends by Stuart Maconie, which is about all the people that the Rosencrantz and Guildensterns of the Beatles story, the ones just so it's in chronological order. It starts with a guy who said to Paul McCartney, "Do you want to come to this school of fate and meet my friend John Lennon?" So what if he hadn't gone? What if he hadn't introduced? What if he hadn't had that? There's so many what if moments in this, and it is just absolutely fascinating. Maconie's a brilliant writer. He's so good at this stuff, and it's and they're all sort of short 2 or 3 page chapters, but it's just all this. Someone got Ringo a drum kit. Someone. It's just all these amazing little moments. So and
great
the
cover.
parents were. It is a great cover. Yeah, I mean. Does the world need another book about the Beatles? Well, apparently yes. One more, squeeze one more in. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment. On TV, I'm loving Poker Face, and it's into a 2nd season now. So this is a Ryan Johnson series. Ryan Johnson, of course, did Knives Out, and this stars Natasha Lyonne, and she's kind of on the run from criminals, and she has this uncanny ability to know when someone is lying. And it has a lot in common with Columbo. It has that kind of Columbo thing where you see the murder at the beginning and you know who did it, and then she comes on the scene and it's how she figures it out. My next thing that's bringing me joy is another Ottakers employee. Here we go. This is Paul Armfield, singer-songwriter, and he's got a new album out called Between the Covers, which is a beautiful album. It's kind of folksy, beautiful songs, but there's a song here called The Books Beside My Bed, which is about, this is so relatable, all those books piling up by your bed that you're never going to get round to reading.
Oh, if I had only read the books beside my bed.
He used to be the manager of Ottakers on the Isle of Wight, and I used to that was one of my big treats for the month, was going on the ferry to the Isle of Wight, and always got such a warm welcome there from the staff there. And he now runs the Medina bookshop on the Isle of Wight, which I think is an award-winning bookshop now, and it does incredibly well. But the thing about that trip as well, going to the Isle of Wight, I'll be on the, go on the ferry, then you get the bus, and as you're going on the bus, and you're on the bus, and I'm maybe reading a book or whatever, and then all of a sudden, all these women on the bus start getting their compacts out and putting makeup on and checking their hair, and I'm like, it's like an invisible, a signal has gone off, and they're all doing their makeup, and then we pull up outside the prison, and they all got off. It was just,
Wow.
every
That's a
time
moment.
it was just, yeah, it was the strangest thing. It was absolutely brilliant. The other thing that's bringing me joy are Comic-Cons. Now, in the last month, I did the MCM Comic-Con. Lovely. It's so great to see so many people there. I did too well there because I sold out of a couple of my books, one of which was reprinting, and then they shut down the warehouse because they were moving the warehouse, so I had to cancel the last 3 Comic-Cons. So I didn't go to Hatfield or Northampton or what was the other one in Suffolk, which is a real shame because I just didn't have the books to sell. But I'm back, baby, this weekend. I've got plenty coming. So starting in Brighton on 14th of June, and some amazing guests as well, including Brian Blessed, who opened Waterstones in Epsom when I was assistant manager there. And this was just after he'd gone up Everest without any oxygen. And as the newspaper was going to take our photo for the local paper, we all stood next to him. And as they were about to, hit the shutter, he shouted, "Nickers!" in that voice. And we all just cracked up. So if anyway, he's just the best. If anyone has that photo, I've never seen it, please send it to me. So yeah, it's the Brighton Comic Con. If you listen to the recording, it's probably going to come too late. This is why you should come to the live stream. And then on the 22nd of June, I'm going to be at the Portsmouth Comic Con as well. And then, speaking of Tenterden earlier, I'm going to the at the Steampunk Day, the Tenterden Steampunk Festival, which is at the train station in Tenterden. It's a wonderful day. You get proper steam trains there that you can get on and go back and forth, but there's all sorts of fun there, and I'll be selling my books there. I had such a good time there last year, such a lovely bunch. And then I'm at Basildon on June 29th at the Comic Con there, and then another big one, the London Film and Comic Con 5th and 6th of July in London at the Olympia, and then another big one up in Birmingham, the Midlands Comic Con 12th to 13th of July at the NEC, and then Guildford Comic Con on the 19th of July. So do come and say hello, and you'll see the ticker tape at the bottom on my website, Diary and Appearances. If you go and look for that, all my Comic-Cons will be listed on there. Twice a month I run live sessions on Zoom where you can ask me questions about the craft of writing, your work in progress, the business of publishing. Sessions are fun, informal, chatty. You can send me questions in advance. They're recorded live and saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. You'll see the link there. I'll put that in the show notes as well, so you can check that out. I'm running this via Ko-fi. You can join by clicking on the Green Room membership. It's £20 a month, no long-term commitment. You can pop in and out as you wish. My goal is to be able to give supporters advice that will make a real difference to their writing and career. Because the way I see it, having worked in this industry as a salesperson, bookseller and author for over 30 years, I've made every mistake, so you don't have to. The next Green Room session is Thursday, 12th of June. It's this week. We're going to have a Q&A session. And then Wednesday, 25th of June, is the 200-word workshops, where people send me 200 words from their work in progress, usually on a theme of some kind, and we critique it and all come out of it as better authors. And I got books. You can buy my books, all of those, from all good bookstores. If you want signed and dedicated copies, come straight to my store at witchesofwoodville.com. There's a store there where you can order those and get them signed. And I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. You'll find all the links that we discussed in the show notes for this episode and on this episode's webpage at marksday@creativedifferences.com. A huge thanks to Emily for production assistance, to Kai Newton for the edit, and to Dominic Curry for the jingle. Let's hear it one more time. Nice. And a very thanks to my special, a very thanks? That's not even English. Me write words good. Thanks to my special guest, Nicola Whyte, and to everyone who's joined us live tonight. And if you're listening to the audio podcast and rewatching this on Facebook or YouTube, thank you very much. But we really missed you. And you're more than welcome to join us next month with my next special guest. Speaking of which, here we go. It's Rowan Coleman. Thursday, 24th of July, 8 p.m. British Summer Time. Rowan is the internationally best-selling and award-winning author and screenwriter of many novels, including the memory book Summer of Impossible Things, A Girl at the Window, and her latest novel, Never Tear Us Apart, is out on 3rd of July. And also, under the name Stella Hayward, she'll be publishing a brilliant book which I have read called The Good Boy in September. It's about a dog who turns into a man. It's really, really funny. It was one of my live stream chats with Rowan last year that made me think that Creative Differences might actually work. So it'd be great to get her back on. So yes, do join us for that 24th of July. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, things like ratings, reviews, likes, shares, these all help massively with those AI algorithms. But most importantly, as I'm losing my voice here because of all the pollen and hay fever that I've got. If you could just tell one person about this podcast, that will make the biggest difference. Word of mouth is the best marketing there is. Nicola, before I lose my voice completely, thank you so much for this. So what's coming next? Is it Marchfield 2?
It is Marchfield 2. And then the next thing, the percolating thing.
Oh, yeah. I love the percolating thing. Well, look, once it's percolated into something that tastes like book coffee, is that thing? That's a terrible metaphor.
It is now.
It is now. Yeah. So, do come back and tell us all about it.
I would love to. Yeah. I've had a lovely evening.
Thank you so much. And it's been lovely having you here and all you lovely people here. I'm going to end the stream now. And we have to do this in the tradition of old TV. We have to wave at the camera. There we go. Wave at the camera, everyone.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
We have to do it. Yeah. There we go.
The whole time?
The whole time.